A big shout out to Viltrox for sponsoring this video, even though they had no input to it, no advanced preview of it, and the views expressed herein, as always, are absolutely my own, as they should be. Thanks, Viltrox. Sometimes I drive myself nuts. I was going to tell you about how impressed I was by Viltrox's first Pro Series lens, the 75 1.2. I'll put a link to the review down in the show notes below, and how it set my expectations for the second lens in the series, this guy, Viltrox's new 27mm f1.2. How, from lens design and materials to build quality, weather sealing, industrial design, autofocus, speed, and silence, even the haptics of this lens, including a novel, in my experience, dedicated aperture ring I found to be beautifully weighted, damped, and silent with 1/3 stop increments, those expectations were only further heightened. Then, I was going to tell you about my story of woe and the limits of studio lens testing, the limits of focus peaking, which actually I almost never use. How even with those expectations, I almost myself upon reviewing the very first couple of studio test shots of this lens. I was blown away. But how much money, time, and effort I subsequently spent double-checking myself, insisting upon finding its flaws, and of course, finding them. They weren't actually that hard to find. Ultimately going so far as to evaluate it, on the other hand, because still it was great, against three of the best full-frame lenses I have at three different price points, $700, $1,200, and $5,100. But then I had a better idea. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and I will just cut to the chase. 1. This 27 f1.2 Pro, mounted once again on Fujifilm's 40-megapixel X-H2, proves that the first lens in the series was no fluke. The concept and execution of both of these lenses are ambitious as and keenly priced. F1.2? Check. A radically more complex lens design with special lens elements than, say, Zeiss's baddest 40mm f2? Check. For $545, I mean, what? Fujifilm's nearest competitor, the half-stop slower XF23 1.4 RLMWR, is $900. 2. As with the 75 1.2, this 27 1.2 delivers. Out in the real world, most especially for street photography, for which its full-frame equivalent field of view and shallow depth of field, again of 40 f2, is ideally suited, its image quality will be, for 99% of us, 99% of the time, indistinguishable from that of somewhere between the very good and the very best full-frame lenses of similar configuration when mounted on an even higher resolution full-frame camera like my 47.5 megapixel Leica SL2, never mind our 60 megapixel Sony A7R5. 3. But then there's this. Attaching the 27 1.2 to the X-H2 and then shooting with it, less for testing purposes than for actual enjoyment, engendered what I can only call a sense of occasion. Although I had 2 other cameras and 4 other lenses with me for other testing purposes. This is the combination to which I most often returned. But no, I did not have my Leicas with me. 4. This is in no small part due to the fact that beyond its industrial design and feel in hand, beyond the fact that, like the 75 1.2, this lens makes me appreciate just how good the X-H2 is, when one moves to what I'll call forensic level pixel peeping paroxysm, maybe, I'm talking 400 to 1200% magnification. The 27-1.2 essentially matches center sharpness with Panasonic's full-frame $700 Lumix 35-1.8S and comes this close to Voigtlander's $1,150 Apo Lanthar aspherical 35 f2 and Leica's benchmark full-frame Apo Summicron SL35 f2, all mounted to that SL2. This is a big deal. A big deal. In fact, I'd say the Viltrox and the Lumix have similar image quality overall. That is, corner to corner, not only for sharpness, but for chromatic aberration, which is quite something. Many people, for example, don't realize that the Lumix 35-1.8 and 50-1.8 siblings are the basis for Leica's 35 and 50mm f2 aspherical autofocusing lenses in L-mount, which in turn, from a clinical perspective, I think it's fair to say, are superior to their M-lens counterparts. I own the 50 Summicron. However, 5. The Lumix is a better video lens, while both it and the Viltrox suffer from chromatic aberration wide open, even a stop or two beyond that. The Viltrox also suffers from major focus breathing, and the Lumix does not. Wow, that YouTube 100,000 subscriber reward looks like it's just kind of floating away. 6. If you need or simply insist upon the very best image quality across the frame with as close to zero chromatic aberration as possible for photography, the Apo Lanthar is better, the Apo Summicron SL, the best of all that I've ever tested. As they ought to be for the prices. Seven, the size and weight of the Viltrox may be issues for some of us. Whether or not they are for you, only you can know. But it does seem to me that Viltrox is now where Zeiss was with its Otis line and Sigma was with its original HSM art lenses a decade ago. Image quality über alles, including size and weight. Let me wrap it up. Let me recap this way, because it's very clear to me what it is that I'm seeing. First and foremost, the 27-1.2 Pro is an incredible accomplishment, especially at the price. It took me weeks, really, to grapple with the gnawing reality I felt in the pit of my stomach that just because I could see or find weaknesses of, differences between the Viltrox and far more expensive lenses, it didn't mean that those things would matter to most anyone else. In fact, I think it's fair to assert most people, including most photographers, simply will not see, let alone appreciate, the real differences in technical image quality between this sub-$600 lens on a $2,000 40-megapixel camera on the one hand, and a $5,100 Leica Apo Summicron SL35 f2 on a $7,000 47.5 megapixel Leica SL2 on the other. Of course, there are other things to consider, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Really, the point is that this is how far the diffusion of computer-aided design, computer-aided machinery, materials, science, and skilled labor across the globe has come. It will certainly be impossible to see the difference when consuming images the way the vast majority of the world's population now does, which of course is on smartphones. Then again, the great news is this means only the photographer's eye and execution, especially the edit, truly matter. But second, the weaknesses are there, from the modest but visible at or near wide open, without pixel peeping, chromatic aberration, to the quite obvious focus breathing, and again, the relative size and weight, although it's nothing compared to even a 24-70 zoom, let's get real. But with all of this said, there are three things more important, I think, to say, so let's get to them. One, bottom line, I loved shooting with this Viltrox. In fact, I shot for what it is, not for what it isn't, and I am really happy and a little surprised, frankly, with the results. As I said when I did the review of the 75 1.2 on the X-H2, if I could have only this lens on this camera, I could be very, very happy. And what's really nice, as I also said earlier, using these Viltrox Pro lenses on the X-H2 offers the shooter a sense of occasion, something that I only feel these days when shooting with Leica or Hasselblad. 2. But at an utterly mundane level, what this experience with the Viltrox 27mm 1.2 has also led me to conclude, it simply achieves parity with some very good to excellent, moderately fast full-frame lenses on a full-frame 60-megapixel camera while increasing total package size and weight to full-frame levels. While the X-H2 and the Sony a7R IV-A, for example, are about the same size and weight, the Viltrox, already roughly twice the size and weight of the $900 Fujifilm XF33 1.4, is just about 3 times the size and weight of Sony's $600 and quite good 40mm f2.5G full-frame lens. You do give up when equalized for depth of field and crop factor. Half a stop? And not only can I not tell you if this is important, only you can decide that for yourself. I cannot tell you with certainty what the differences in image quality are because, once again, I did not have this one in-house at the time. But if memory serves, it's close. Then again, you save thousands of dollars going APS-C with virtually no traditional compromises. My point is, don't be enthralled with f1.2 per se. Be enthralled with what it can do for you if you truly need it. Finally, 3. And I know this is coming out of left field. I know nothing about Viltrox as a company. I've never met or spoken to anyone who works there. I don't know how well they're doing financially. I don't know how stable they are. I don't know what their product mix is today or what they may want it to be in the future. I know nothing about their corporate culture or ownership structure. But I do know that they are proof positive of the value of Fujifilm opening up its lens mount to third parties. I do know that by choosing to start their Pro lineup with fast, non-standard for Fujifilm anyway, focal length primes, I imagine the next one will complete a prime trilogy with, say, a 14 or 16mm wide super wide. Viltrox has plugged a gap that Fujifilm couldn't or wouldn't address, and done it in an innovative, exceptionally performant way. So I wonder, were Fujifilm to acquire Viltrox, whether or not this would be a good idea, whether or not it could accelerate Fujifilm's XF transition to high-resolution compatible lenses, whether or not it might invigorate the XF lineup, whether or not it might shorten the distance to what comes after that, which I implied earlier is top-notch image quality in lenses sufficiently lighter and smaller than full frame to reestablish APS-C's core promise of lighter, smaller, faster, and less expensive. Just saying. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, join the conversation in the comments section below because this is an exceptional audience. If you'd like help with a portfolio review, gear selection, finding or honing your artistic voice, sign up for a one-on-one mentoring video call via Zoom at 3bmep.com/booking. Finally, please consider supporting our work by using the no-cost view affiliate links down below, sending us coffee money via PayPal, or most especially, joining us on Patreon, links down below as well. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.